painfully oblivious. Sir Urien followed Lord Dane and Rider Rainier as they walked side by side on top of the north wall. The elf was explaining to them how their defenses worked. The riders and dragons take turns scouting the area. We always have eyes in the sky. Right now, Amara and Norfia are finishing their patrol. He waved his hand to point at the west, then to the east as he spoke. Also, we formed a line of spells from the coast to do Weldenvarden, going over the entire spine. If someone comes from the north and crosses that line, we will know, he said. Rainier's northern accent never ceased to amaze Urien, who kept an attentive stance behind the pair. How what, my lord? How will you know? Oh. The riders will feel their energy being drawn. It's not much, just enough for us to know where it is and when. We thought of using similar spells cast in Do Weldenvarden, but they are too old and too complicated. They feed off the energy of the forest itself. We don't have the same luxury of learning such grand spells in these times of war. I see. How about Do Weldenvarden? Is the Order also guarding it? The forest has its own protection system, as I just mentioned. We, the elves, are very protective of our lands and trees, as you might know. His voice went low in the end, and amused Sir Urien how he alluded to Dane's father and his bad decision of cutting the trees to make war machines during the war. Right. What if they decide to go east and make a move on Mount Arnger, for example? The young lord stopped his walk to face Rainier, who silenced for a few seconds, trying to find the right words. Arnger is out of danger. I mean, he hesitated, which raised Sir Urien's curiosity. What I am trying to say is that we do not need to worry about the East. They can fend for themselves just fine. That is why we are here, and not there. The answer seemed to satisfy Lord Dane, but Urien was still wondering what might be Anger's defense system. He had to remember to ask the witch about that later. It was almost twilight, and Lord Dane started to head back to his castle, where he and his wife were well guarded by the mightiest soldiers they had in Sunon. Lord Dane, one more thing before you go, Rainier said, making Dane turn on his heels. On behalf of the Order of the Dragon Riders, I would like to thank you for your hospitality and support. The elf twisted his fist over his chest and bent his head. A kind but tired smile appeared on Lord Dane's face. I just want my people to be safe from the ones that killed my brother. And you are our best hope. May the gods bless you, Rider, and your order. Saying that he felt comfortable in Detheda's company would be an exaggeration. As the days went by, Eragon got used to having the elf wandering the halls and stairs, dining at his table, and staying late by his side near the fireplace. They hardly traded a word or two, even though Eragon had so many questions he would like to ask him. For example, he would like to know what Detheda thought of the letter Eragon sent him. Arya's presence diverted the Lord's attention a bit. Still, Eragon felt watched by the roaming figure. He refrained to mention that to Arya, afraid that she would think he was picking on Detheda for suspecting his motives, but he eventually let it all out. I think Detheda has been watching me, he said from the desk, as Arya sat on the couch with a book in hands in a quiet evening after dinner. He turned in his seat to look at her. She kept the book closed against her chest and a neutral expression on her face. I believe he might know about us, he added. A week had passed since she had come east since they all arrived. A week has passed since he found out about the Eldenari and a dragon egg being unprotected against Arya's traitors. Nasuada was good at hiding her discomfort with her last month's pregnancy. The discomfort would only add to the concern of not being able to carry her pregnancy to the due date. She was brave, though, and kept a calm facade, participating in Eragon's life as much as she could, without raising the attention of the residents. She would stay in her quarters, tended by a couple of trusted handmaids, chosen by Blurdgum, but whenever Eragon was available, they talked freely about many subjects. The handmaids were two refugees of the kingdom's law on magic use, and the fact that they were Nasuada's caretakers would make Eragon grin. They talked about that as well, and it seemed Nasuada had suppressed any hard feelings. How life was ironic sometimes. Murtog spent his days in the Eyrie with her, sharing the workload with Eragon. He was good at dealing with suppliers and clients. A new interest of his was the production and distribution of ale. He asked to go see the barley crops, which Eragon did with great pleasure. They spent the day on the farms, as they would every day if life had been different for them. Elva kept her day-to-day life very private. The only full conversation they had was to ask for a new place to stay, since she had trouble being surrounded by big crowds. She didn't want to stay in the mountain like last time, so he found her a place to stay in the village on the other side of the river. It was close to the beet farm, now frozen by the cold temperatures that intensified by the day. He made her promise, though, that she would watch over Arya constantly, as he did not trust her advisor as much as she did. Sometimes, Elva would sit by his side to have her breakfast in the kitchens. Sometimes, she would come after dinner to keep him company as he smoked by the fireplace. But most of the time, she was Arya's shadow. Arya was restless. She did everything she could to hide it from him, but he knew. Meetings behind closed doors with Lord Deathada were frequent during the week before. Once or twice, they had the company of Blurdgarm and Yela. That was what concerned Eragon the most, since he felt they were planning something. Something dangerous, and without him. It upset him that Arya had not told him about it yet. Well, he was the one who chose not to be told about the political intricacy of the elves, and complaining about that was big hypocrisy. So, he did not, but he promised to help her retrieve the Eldenari and the egg, which he could only do if she let him be part of her plans. Life with her, on the other hand, as they spent their free hours in the treehouse, was light and easy, like he had never expected it to be, only hoped. After the argument they had about her going back to Elismera, they started sailing smoothly. No more fighting, only the episode when she cried herself to sleep disturbed their peace. Silly of her to think he would leave her. He would never leave her. Never. Arya cleared her throat and diverted her gaze. It made Eragon straighten his back and frown. Arya, what is it? When she looked back at him, she had an impetuous stare. I am not apologizing for it. For what? She took a deep breath to prepare, for telling him. Eragon's eyes widened. He expected Deathada to find out about them by himself one day, and hoped that the truth would free and empower them, but he would not guess that she was willing to confide in her advisor like that. At first, he thought she should tell Deathada, but she was adamant that making their relationship public was not the best decision. The idea would come and go in their minds, but they always concluded that it should be private. So why now? Why? I need allies. I had to appeal to his emotions. He is already your friend and advisor. Why would you need to manipulate him into staying by your side? She shook her head and put the book down on the table. Again, I'm not apologizing for it. No, I'm not mad because you told him. He's your friend, after all. You need someone in which to confide since Avelina is away. I just want to understand how it came to be. Her eyes found comfort in the garden outside, now pale from the winter, but magically alive. It was faintly lit by the moon. I cannot say. Eragon was tired of knowing only half of every information she gave him. Damned would be the day they agreed on not discussing the politics of the elves. He wished to take that back. Turning to his desk again, he put the pen to the paper and went back to work. If she did not want to tell him, that was all right. He would not insist. Her hands found a way around his shoulders as she stood behind him. You trust me? She asked in his ear. Of course he did, but that was not the point. She was hiding more than politics, and it hurt her. He could see it. Do you? He returned the question, turning to see her. You trust yourself and your choices. Because it seems you're in conflict with yourself. I look at you, Arya, and I see doubt and guilt. Arya held his stare, but it looked like she was not seeing him, so he stood up and held her hands. I understand if that's what you feel. I feel it too, as you know by now, he added. I feel it, I can't deny. Let me help you, he pled. She shook her head, struggling with her own thoughts. The help I really need you cannot give me. Arya, it's not fair. Again with the talk about going back to Alagezia. He had chosen not to tell her yet that he and Saphira intended in going with her to Elismera to rescue what she had lost. So it was understandable that she would hold it against him, the fact that he resisted going back. He could only think of her reaction when she found out. Why are we keeping the secret again? Saphira kept herself and Fernan warm in their shelter. You know I want to gather with the Eldenari to better prepare. What if they say I cannot go? They will not. But still, wiping what she said with her hand, she touched his face and said, Forget what I said. It is all right. I am all right. Are you sure? Her smile was sad but dazzling as usual. I promise. Deathida and I are working on a plan. Soon I will be sitting on my throne again, and life will get back to normal. The use of the ancient language proved she was confident in that plan of theirs, even without his help. Good. At least for now. Don't forget to include me. I promised I would help you with this, and I intend to keep that promise. I will not forget. He let go of her after laying a kiss on her forehead and sat back down on his chair. Arya went back to her book on the couch. If he knows, he started, then why is he tiptoeing around me so much? Arya furrowed her brow but didn't say what was on her mind. He wondered what that was. Well, whatever it is, I hope he quits. It annoys me to no end. Come on, Solembum. Urien heard Angela calling into the night. They walked through the night in the city of Sunon while the residents rested, warm in their beds. Their steps were quick, but silent against the snow that covered the streets, in the direction of the north wall where they agreed to meet with Sir Urien. It would be day soon, so they decided to start their journey as early as possible, ready to go. His raspy voice resounded when they met by the gate. Angela smirked and pulled her hood to cover her face. Are you? Solembum led the way as the gate was opened by the guards. His feline paws almost didn't touch the ground as he advanced. Urien and Angela had more trouble defeating the growing layer of snow as it fell through the dark night. They walked in silence through the forest. Angela went first, holding the lantern in front of her, with the cat to her right, following closely. Why they were walking instead of riding was still a mystery to him. Even if they walked all day, every day, it would take them an entire month until they reached the point where he met the magician they called Barkle. They packed only the essential to survive the wilderness. Still, walking all that distance could mean the death of them. Urien still didn't trust the witch, but her words of vengeance made him follow her into the dark, even if it seemed like a crazy thing to do. What were you doing in the frozen forest when you met Barkle? When I was chased and attacked by her, you mean? Angela turned back to see him with an amused expression. I was trying to be polite. Right. Well, isn't it obvious what I was doing there? I came to investigate to see if I could find what hurt the Lord. And you did. Mission accomplished, she teased for his annoyance. They walked a few more steps in silence until Sir Urien spoke. Are you sure that this is going to work? How can you be so sure that the werecats will want to help? I am not sure of anything, except that the sun rises in the east. She paused and turned to him, her curls shimmering under the lantern's light. And even about that, I have my doubts. Her stare wandered as she was trying to decipher a hard puzzle. He sighed heavily. All those magical people seem to have a different way of seeing life, for their tongues were twisted and minds unreadable. Not a word was straightforward. When he voiced it to her, she laughed loud into the night. It made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Essage. You will attract their attention. Oh, they aren't here. Relax. Angela resumed her walk with a wary Urien behind her. Then she slowed down so he could walk beside her as she spoke. They want to help, but wanting and doing are two very different things. So, what are we doing here exactly if it's not joining them in the fight? We are giving them the benefit of the doubt, of course. I don't understand. They will fight by our side or not. Angela seemed too amused for his taste. You can ask them when we get there. But I would be more careful with your demands if I were you. He felt exhausted from talking to the herbalist, so he silenced. The objective of that trip was to find the werecats and hope they would join them in their mission of ending the war before it even started. They were the watchers of those woods for a long time, as the witch had explained to him before, working in silence, almost never confiding in the humans, or any other race for that matter. With their help, Angela seemed confident she could defeat Barkle without the aid of the riders before she unleashed her magicians and all the harm they could do. If Angela deserved the benefit of the doubt, he was still to discover, but he had nothing to lose after all. At least he felt like going on an adventure as he had only read about. I'm curious, Arya said, still in bed with him before they could start their day. With whom do you picture me when you see me with an elven lord or prince? He rested on her breast. She was drawing patterns on his scalp with her nails, messing his hair. Wondering if he remembered the conversation they had days before, she waited for his answer, and it did not disappoint. Deathada, he said simply, his voice muffled on her skin. Why? He shrugged. He has feelings for you. It's quite obvious. Is it? You will tell me you never noticed. Yes, she had, but she thought it was only apparent for her. It seemed Eragon, that had only met the Lord a couple of times many years before and spent the last days in his company, was perfectly capable of noticing it as well. She never perceived Eragon as being jealous of her proximity to the elf, so that comment surprised her. I was hoping it wasn't that so obvious. Why? To avoid public judgment, of course. And not to worry you. The last part was just a whisper. He brought his head to rest on her shoulder, fitting his face in her neck. It doesn't worry me even if it's annoying. He paused, and she felt he was struggling to say something. I can't deny I feel jealous sometimes. He sighed and continued, but I trust you completely. Besides, if you want to be with him, what can I do? I can't really stop you, can I? She chuckled. And you say I'm too much for you when you are an example of maturity. I am not so sure I wouldn't want to cut off a piece of Helena for coming on to you the way she always does. His body shook with the movement of his laugh. Poor woman. So you wouldn't want to cut any of Deathada's parts if he tried anything with me. I would want to burn him alive. But wouldn't, of course. I also trust you to break his arm if he tries to touch you. You know me so well, she teased. Has he tried anything? He raised his head and faced her. She gave him a gentle smile. He would never. He respects me. He laid a kiss on her lips and rested his head again. Wise man. See, I was right to picture you with him. It's a good match. She slapped him in the arm, which made him burst out laughing. Don't say that. You don't know him. Her serious voice broke his good mood. He raised to lean on his right elbow. Why do you say that? Aren't the two of you friends? He was visibly concerned. He's been my advisor since before I donned the mantle of the Queen. Now, I just can't help the feeling that he's been misleading me into making the wrong choices, which you cannot tell me about. I'm sorry, but no. Is there anything you can do to solve this? Maybe. Do not worry. Too late. Now, I really want to go to his room and burn him alive. Too late. You already said you would not. Her lighter mood did little to lighten up his own. Fine. But do break his arm, please. I will think about it. That night, he had the weirdest dream as she watched from their shared consciousness. He was in Elismera in a celebration. He found out to be a birth celebration. Between their parents, a child rested. When he raised his eyes to see who they were, his heart almost stopped, because right in front of him he saw Arya, elegant in her white gown and gold crown, and her mate, Lord Deathada. His eyes shot open, and he began to pant heavily, sitting on the bed. Arya's hands pulled his shoulders back to rest on the mattress. It was just a dream. Did you see? Did you see what it was? She smiled and caressed his face. I did. But it was only a dream. If I were to have someone's child, it would be yours.